Was it possible Gaia-shun was here not only to keep an eye on Jinchi, but also to monitor Sugen? Stop thinking about it. That is not what matters now. Maomao brought over the candle that illuminated the room and put the dagger in the flame to sanitize it. She shook the knife to cool it a little, then prepared to resume her work from the previous day. Jinchi was still cooling his side. "Loosen your belt, please," Maomao said. Yes, of course." There was a swish as Jinchi undid his belt and removed the bandage. Beneath a thick layer of salve was burnt flesh that Maomao had been unable to remove. "Have you eaten?" she asked. "Yes, I am done. Take this, then." She mixed medicine into some hot water, drinking a mouthful to show him it was safe. "Is it a painkiller?" "It is to stop infection." "Do you need a painkiller?" "I do." I wouldn't have expected that. I thought you did this sort of thing for fun." It was a joke, although a barbed one. She added some analgesics to the cup. Even if he drank it now, though, it wouldn't stop the pain he would feel when she started cutting. Maomao wiped the balm off Jinchi's side, then rubbed the skin with alcohol. The ice made it very cold to the touch. When she poked it with her finger, it was slow to bounce back. She passed Jinchi a handkerchief. "It's going to bleed. Could you wipe it for me and get off the bed?" "You won't do any of us any favors getting blood on it. I have it. Lie here on your side." Maomao lined up 3 chairs and Jinchi lay down as she asked. His feet stuck off the end, but they would just have to live with it. Maomao covered the area around Jinchi's wound with oil paper, spreading some on the ground as well. Jinchi and Maomao were the only ones in the room. She could not ask anyone to help her. Jinchi nodded to show he was ready. "Here I go." Jinchi, with anxiety written on his face, sucked in a breath but said, "All right." Concern was perhaps the natural reaction when someone was about to plunge a knife into your skin, but nonetheless his expression seemed odd. Maomao dug the knife into the burned skin. Blood bubbled up immediately. Don't tell me he is a little excited. Jinchi's pallor was good, showing he had excellent blood flow, but that defeated the purpose of chilling his skin. She would have to work quickly. She started cutting away the remaining charred flesh. Blood poured out and she relied on Jinchi to keep it at bay. She was trying her best to keep the cuts shallow. However, this was not like filleting a fish. Blood dripped onto the oil paper on the floor. Ploop, ploop. After Maomao removed the last of the burned skin, the shape of the brand and the details of the crest stood out even more. "I wish I could just cut that straight off," she thought. Removing all the burned skin would cut her troubles in half at the very least. At this moment, however, she had to prioritize proper treatment. Her specialty was herbs and medicines. When it came to what she was doing to Jinchi now, she was barely better than an untrained amateur. She did not want to do anything that would provoke more bleeding than necessary. She stopped the blood with Puwong, then pressed gauze covered with oil paper to the wound. She cinched the bandage down tight to help stop the bleeding. Maomao exhaled heavily and then wiped up the rest of the blood with a handkerchief. Jinchi's hand was filthy where he had been holding the cloth. "Here," Maomao wet a rag and passed it to him. "I have medicine for you to take each day. I also have a salve to put on the wound. I've prepared coagulants just in case the bleeding does not stop. I have 10 days' worth of fresh bandages and gauze." She patted a small chest containing the supplies. "Since I know you are a quick study, Master Jinchi, may I assume you have already picked up how to secure the bandage?" "As far as it goes, yes." Jinchi looked like there was more he wanted to say. "And you can dress yourself?" "Yes," he said with profound annoyance. Maomao suspected she knew what he was holding back. She wished she could check on his progress every day. However, she thought once every 3 days was the best they could hope for. Coming daily would be asking too much. "That is why I need you to be able to change your own bandage. During the vacation, it might be manageable. As long as Yao and Nen weren't around, she might even be able to keep her nighttime excursions a secret." However, there were too many eyes and ears to keep everything completely secret. The rumor mill was already working when he last came to the pleasure district. At that time, he had appeared every 10 days so she could check on the scar on his face. He had worn his mask, but that only made him more provocative and mysterious. The signs were obvious. From his clothing and perfume, everyone in the pleasure district could tell he was somebody important. But what am I supposed to do about it? Considering how severe Jinchi's current injury was, He should have had a proper doctor look at it immediately. Maomao specialized in herbs and internal medicine. She was not an expert when it came to surgery. She had once helped amputate an arm when a soldier was wounded in a bandit attack, but that was because circumstances forced her hand. You have gone quiet. Anything else you need to tell me? I am thinking, sir. I have a lot on my mind. Curse this root of all evil. And now the root was talking to her. Jinchi came closer to Maomao, who immediately backed away. What? He asked, disappointed that she should run. Don't get so close. I stink. I have been sweating. It cannot smell that bad. It is enough to bother me. She had wiped herself down before setting out for Jinchi's chambers, but she had been sweating from every pore and felt disgusting. Cutting away Jinchi's burn had been nervous work. This wasn't exactly the fine sweat one produces from exercising. It was oily and it smelled bad. Maomao took another step back. What do you intend to do in the future? Healing people is an apothecary's job, isn't it? Luckily, I have one right here. The way he said it so casually made her want to punch him right in his beautiful face. She took a deep breath, poured some water from a carafe into a cup and took a drink. She did not bother asking Jinchi for permission. Calm down, calm down, calm down. You are right, sir. Apothecaries do treat illnesses and injuries, but that burn is beyond my abilities. When it comes to surgery, I can only copy what I have seen others do. I have never formally learned. I am not even certain that what I have done to treat you is correct. You just did it, didn't you? I don't suppose you intend to stick any more bladed objects into me. Jinchi rubbed his side jovially. Before she could stop herself, Maomao slammed both hands on the table. The tingling in her palms made her glance around. She wanted to see if anyone outside had noticed the noise. The chambers were spacious enough that she hoped they hadn't. First you put a scar on your cheek, then you put a burn on your belly. And you expect me to just trust that you won't do any more harm to yourself after this? She shook out her hands as she yelled. She wanted to believe Jinchi wasn't simply being over-optimistic, but once he did something it would be too late. In short, Maomao was feeling her own powerlessness and feeling it keenly. I have to do something about this, she thought of her old man. He had taught her a great deal about herbs and medicines. However, regarding surgery he had taught her only the barest facts. He had ordered her sternly to never touch a human corpse. Maomao's lips pinched together, and she looked at Jinchi. Master Jinchi, she said. What? I am currently one of the court ladies assigned to assist the physicians. I am not sure I am the most suited for the job, but I passed the test and earned the position on merit. How much privilege does this give me? For the moment, Maomao's work consisted mostly of washing bandages and mixing simple medical concoctions. Perhaps administering first aid for the least severe injuries. Those with more serious conditions were always sent to the veteran healers. Maomao wondered how much treatment she would be allowed to do, assuming her abilities were sufficient. Jinchi placed a hand to his chin. There isn't an official boundary. It would depend on the caseloads of the higher-ranking physicians, I suppose. Is that so, sir? Maomao thought of Dr. Liu. He was first among equals of the ranking physicians. If she was going to ask anyone to teach her, it would have to be him, or perhaps my old man would be pretty sad if I asked him to teach me surgery. Not mad, sad. Her father, Liumen, was exactly that sort of person. On some level, she thought she understood why he did not want to teach her surgery. It involved much that people considered impure. Even other doctors acted as if it was something wholly different from treatment with medicine. She had heard it was worse in the West. There, barbers sometimes worked as surgeons. Liumen had been persecuted, and he had seen it happen to others. He likely raised Maomao in the apothecary's tradition to protect her from such criticism, and I am grateful for that. But Maomao's life had become far more dramatic than Liumen had likely expected. Master Jinchi, I am going to ask my father to teach me. You have no objection, I trust. She thought it would be best to ask her old man first. Sir Liumen, Jinchi pretended to consider this for a moment. Very well, Liumen was a man of deep insight. If Maomao came to him asking to learn surgery, he might suspect something was up. At the same time, he would never speak of anything he only assumed. I'm sorry, Pops, Maomao thought. She felt so anxious she thought a hole might open in her stomach, but staying silent would be even worse. You can blame it on him. She glared at Jinchi. As for Jinchi, he gazed up at the ceiling. It will be well if Sir Luhuman agrees, Jinchi started. Maomao was cleaning her workspace. She almost said that things wouldn't go well. She lifted the bloody oil paper and placed it in a leather pouch. Then she wiped up the blood that had gotten on the chairs and the floor. She worked to make her eyes appear less bloodshot, carefully ensuring there wasn't a trace of the red left. By the time Maomao finished cleaning up, Jinchi seemed to have reached a conclusion. "I will be going, sir," Maomao said. "Already?" Jinchi asked. "I have done what I came here to do." The nobleman gave her a pleading look, but she could not stay and entertain him forever. At this hour she might still be able to get back to the dormitory. She picked up the last of her tools, then fixed Jinchi with a look. She had to make sure this part got through to him. "What you have to bear, Master Jinchi, I do not believe I could ever carry." "Perhaps that is why you did what you did." She took a deep breath and let it out. Then she grabbed Jinchi by the lapels. "You will not do it again." It was a miracle that she did not sound enraged. Jinchi awkwardly avoided her gaze. Is he going to be all right? She wondered. She was still anxious as she took her belongings and left the room. Chapter 3, Carter's Book, Part 1. The next day, Maomao was awoken by a shout from the woman who ran the dormitory. "You've got a visitor," she called. Maomao got changed, rubbing her eyes all the while, then went to the front door to see who it was. She found a gentle but perpetually worried-looking old man, her adoptive father. She began to ask what was wrong, but then she remembered. She had spoken to Jinchi about contacting Luhuman the night before. He works fast. Judging by Luhuman's expression, Jinchi's letter had explained exactly what Maomao wanted to know. So, Pops, she wasn't quite sure how to explain, but her father narrowed his eyes and let out a small sigh. "Perhaps we should have this conversation somewhere else." He plopped a hand on Maomao's head. A carriage stood ready outside. Luhuman's bad knee made even walking around town difficult. But where did he plan for them to go? As they bounced along in the carriage, Maomao talked. She felt ill at ease the whole time, however, because she had to keep secrets. "Are you on vacation too, Pops?" "For today, yes, I have to work tomorrow. There are no extended breaks for medical staff." That was true, and also true for pretty much anyone at the court. A minimum number of medical personnel had to be present at all times. It was certain there would be trouble if there wasn't at least one qualified doctor to attend all the important people. I wish I could have been part of that, Maomao thought. She knew there were limits to what court ladies like her would be allowed to do. It did not matter to her that she felt she was working harder than some of the less committed young physicians. After being rattled and bumped around in the carriage for a while, they arrived at a mansion. The mansion inspired a nameless but unpleasant feeling in Maomao. They were on the eastern edge of the capital. The nicest houses weren't in this area, but this one was still quite large. It must have been a striking building in its time. Now it was old. The first thing she noticed was a strange monument near the gate. It looked like a giant go board. There were big, round, black and white stones nearby. You could have used them to play an ordinary game except for their massive size. In addition to the black and white stones, she saw what looked like shogi pieces. These pieces were made of wood instead of stone. The ink used to write their names had faded with time. Without the characters carved into the wood, it might have been difficult to tell which piece was which. The board had carefully crafted lines, and it looked like it could be used for both go and shogi. It was large, appearing to be a single piece of rock. She wondered about the cost of getting it there. It seemed like a waste of money, at least to her. Had the homeowner chosen it himself, or was it a gift from someone else? Regardless, the way it stuck out into the road made it an obstacle and nothing more. At this point we surely need not explain further whose house they had come to. Maomao and her father passed through the ruined gate, whereupon he emerged with a vile grin on his face. "Granduncle, Maomao, welcome home." It was Lahan, his already narrow eyes narrowing further with his unctuous smile. Yes, they were at the house of the freak strategist. "This is a stranger's house," Maomao said. "And I was chased out," Luhuman said, each of them rebuffing Lahan's welcome in their own way. When Luhuman had suggested a change of location, Maomao had never imagined he would bring them here. To make matters worse, 2 other people were there at that moment. "Good morning, Master Luhuman." Maomao, how nice of you to join us, said Nen, approaching from behind Lahan. She gave Liuhumen a respectful bow. To Maomao she offered a brisk nod and a reproving look. It was not my intention, believe me, Maomao said. Well, it certainly should have been. You belong here. Nen kept glancing back. Maomao followed her gaze and saw Yao hiding behind a post. Nen's eyes said, one does feel sorry for the young mistress, but she is so cute. Lahan, perhaps aware of Nen's proclivities, looked at her with a critical glance. Then he turned to Liuhumen. How many years has it been since you lived here, granduncle? You left before I can even remember, and I don't think you've been back since. No. Let's see now, it must be at least 18 years. I returned once to collect my things, but no more than that. Maomao's father was looking fondly into the distance. His departure from this house happened around the time he began raising Maomao. Your room is still here, granduncle, he said, although I wish you had told me a little sooner that you were coming. He scratched his cheek. I recently lent your annex to these two people. The library is still here, but if you are going to be staying, I can prepare a room in the main house. Would you like that? No, thank you, you needn't go out of your way. I won't be staying over. I only came to give Maomao a bit of homework. I must say, though, the place has rather gone to seed since I last saw it. Do not worry, we clean it regularly. Homework, Maomao thought. It seemed Liuhumen was going to do what he could to maintain face despite Jinchi's request. If this homework had to do with surgery, Maomao would gladly play along, but she sensed it wasn't going to be as straightforward as that. Quite apart from Maomao's thoughts, Lahan continued to speak with Liuhumen. In any case, I am sure my honoured father would be overjoyed if you were to come live with us. I'm afraid not. My bad leg makes the dormitory much more convenient, closer to court. This house would be a bit far for me. Simple enough, just use a carriage. Maomao suspected that Lahan's true motivation was to rope Liuhumen into helping him look after the old man, which had to be a lot of work all on his own. Liuhumen kept smiling, but gently refused. Lahan did not want to push the matter too quickly, but he seemed likely to continue thinking about it. Yao Nen, I would like to go to the annex. Is that all right? Liuhumen asked. I do not mind, Nen said, but she looked at Yao, who was willing to come out from behind her post to answer a question from Liuhumen. It is all right with me too. It sounded as though there was something more to her words. She glanced at Maomao, but Maomao limited her response to a polite bow. She was more interested in the homework Liuhumen had mentioned. Yao said, what is this homework thing? Is Maomao going to get special instruction that we do? Her face was a little scary. Nen was gesticulating from outside of Yao's line of sight, trying to communicate something to Maomao. Sorry. I don't understand. Liuhumen looked troubled by Yao's critical tone, but he replied, a fair question. In fact, I thought the timing was perfect when Lahan told me you were here. It wouldn't be good to teach certain things only to Maomao. Then you'll teach us about medicine, sir? She asked. The clouds she was under parted ever so slightly. Not immediately. One must prove oneself worthy to learn the secrets of medicine. I want to make sure the two of you really, the three of you including Maomao, are prepared to do what it takes. Is that all right? Prove oneself worthy, Maomao thought. That sort of talk wasn't like her old man. He loved sharing his knowledge and gave freely of his wisdom to anyone who asked. He resisted privileging anyone over another or considering one person more deserving than another. He said, I will explain once we get to the room. I know Maomao is ready. What about the two of you? Yao asked. I'm all set, Yao said. If Lady Yao is prepared, then so am I, said Nen. They followed Maomao's father. Maomao followed as well, of course. Are they coming with us? Maomao felt a surge of anxiety. She knew what medicine her father was going to teach them about, but the other women had no idea. Yao was a young lady with a respectable upbringing, and Nen was her servant. We are not going to teach them to make bold new concoctions or anything, but still Nen might be flexible, yet Yao could be stubborn. Maomao continued to feel uneasy as she followed Liuhumen. There was not much conversation, so she busied herself looking around the grounds. She thought there was nothing as strange as the giant go board outside. She saw a garden, but it was rather bare of ornamental plants. A few large rocks were arranged around it in a way that had a certain elegant simplicity. It looked like Lahan's work to her. She could not help noticing an unsettling collection of scorches and cut marks on the house's posts and railings. She wondered if there had been a struggle here. He had chased his family out, and he made plenty of political enemies. Perhaps she shouldn't have been surprised if he had found himself in a few running battles on the grounds of his own home. Actually, this was the first time she had ever been to the man's house. He had tried to carry her away several times when she was little. Each time the old madam had beaten him with her broom and freed Maomao. Lahan also had to come and carry the hog-tied old man away on many occasions. "Do you get a lot of bandits around here?" Maomao grumbled, running her fingers along one of the scorched posts. The vermilion lacquer had been stripped away. It was obvious no one had bothered trying to repair it. "Oh, you make it sound like such a pit," Lahan said. "Use your eyes. My honoured father made those scorch marks. Can't you tell how old the sword gouges are?"